149 BC, the Republic of Rome declared war on Carthage for the third and final time. Unlike the first two wars between these old rivals, this one would not be a close contest. The Carthaginians put up a fierce resistance in a grueling 3-year siege, but the Romans emerged victorious. With the destruction of the city of Corinth in the same year, the Romans became the undisputed masters of the Western Mediterranean. What made it possible for the Romans to achieve this dominance? Historians have no shortage of answers. But how would an average Roman citizen answer? A strong and disciplined army? Superior organization? Strategic diplomacy? These things may have mattered to our Roman, but it is not how he would likely answer the question. Instead, he would attribute Rome's success to the Republic's good relations with the gods above any other factor. Because their leaders were always sure to seek the favor of their gods and strictly followed the necessary rules and rituals, success was all but guaranteed. But it was not only their own traditional gods that the Romans sought to appease. During the siege of Carthage, a ritual was performed called the Evocatio. Its goal was to call upon the city's protecting deity to abandon the besieged and join the Romans. Although relatively obscure, the ritual is a fascinating window into the religious worldview of the Romans. The Romans believed in a huge number of divinities. There was practically no limit to how many gods could exist in their pantheon. There were the more well-known deities like Jupiter or Mars, alongside countless others connected with particular streams, forests, or households. On top of that, the existence of foreign gods was taken for granted, and were no less real to the Romans than their own. Not all of these gods were given the same treatment. Only a select few were honored with a temple in the city limits of Rome. These gods are said to have their own cult, or cultus. Unlike our modern use of the term cult, this just meant that the people of Rome had an official relationship with that god and would perform all of the rituals necessary to maintain that relationship. Think of it like cultivating a garden. Religion for the Romans had nothing to do with belief and everything to do with action. The gods did not care how you behaved or what you believed, so long as sacrifices and rituals were performed following a strict formula. From a 21st century perspective, it seems that the Romans had a legalistic or contractual relationship with their gods. For example, a general might promise a specific god a temple in return for success in battle, but if that general was defeated, no temple would be expected. One ritual that perfectly fits this pattern of divine deal-making was the Evocatio. Literally meaning to evoke or summon forth, this ritual was performed at the beginning of a siege, with the commander acting as priest. He would call upon the god protecting the city to abandon it and its people. If and when the siege succeeded, the god would be given a temple in Rome that was equal to or better than their current lodgings. When a successfully evoked god came to Rome, their cult and worship would be kept exactly as it was in their place of origin, no matter how foreign or outlandish the practices. It was extremely important to the Romans that they maintain good relations with all the gods. The success of the Republic depended on it. So in one sense, the Evocatio was just like so many other rituals, making sure that every last base was covered. But there was another element to the Evocatio, one of psychological warfare. It was commonly understood throughout the ancient Mediterranean that every city had a principal god protecting it. It was also understood that these gods could and did give up their protection and abandon their worshippers from time to time. Given this, and the Romans' track record of success, some anxiety on the part of the besieged citizens can be expected. What would it have been like to watch your enemies surround your city and call out the god protecting you? Some would probably scoff. What do they know about our god who has lived here for centuries? But maybe a seed of doubt was planted. What if our god does choose the Romans over us? We can't know for sure how the ritual was carried out or how common it was. All instances of it are from the Republican period, a time with spotty source material at best. Then there are two writers in the imperial period who describe the ritual, albeit many years after it had stopped being used. In any case, there are 4 times when it is known to have been carried out in some form, but there were probably many other examples that went unrecorded. The earliest known Evocatio was in 396 BC, when the Romans conquered the city of Veii. This was a milestone for the young republic as it was the very first city to be conquered by Rome. Before the final assault, the commander, Marcus Furius Camillus, gathered the army and prayed to the goddess who protected the city, asking her to join the Romans. His words are recorded by Livy, writing many years later. Juno Regina, who lives in Veii now, I pray that when we are victorious, you will come to us to the city of Rome, which will soon be your city as well, that a temple equal to your dignity might receive you. The day was won, and the statue of Juno was transported with extreme care to Rome. The next known example of an evocatio was at the Siege of Carthage, another milestone for the Republic, as it defeated its greatest rival once and for all. In this case, the actual formula for the words used in the ritual are preserved. Whether a god, whether a goddess, in whose protection is the populace and community of Carthage, and of you most importantly, who this city and this people have received under your protection, I beseech and ask all of you for your approval, that you desert the populace and community of Carthage, forsaking its sacred places, temples, and city. And leaving this place, upon the populace and community fix fear, anxiety, and forgetfulness. And may you come to Rome, to my people and myself, with beneficent spirit, and may it be that Rome's sacred places, temples, and city be more acceptable and more worthy of approbation, and that you might be propitious towards myself and the Roman populace and my soldiers. If these matters you bring to pass so that we know and understand them, I vow that I will construct temples and celebrate games for you. God being called out in this case was probably the Carthaginian Tanit, equated with the Roman Juno. But the Romans did not take chances when it came to religion, so the formula does not call the deity by name, in case there is in fact a different god protecting the city. Whatever god it was protecting the city, they waited 3 years before joining the Romans and giving them victory. There are some other examples of the evocatio that are less well documented. Most of the times the ritual was used were probably left unrecorded. It was in fact just one ritual among many in the extremely intricate world of Roman religion. But it is a window into the Roman mind, how they saw themselves and their neighbors.